Hey, everybody, Kevin here with Pursuing Pixels, and welcome back to another edition of Save It for the Cast. And you know the drill by now. As usual, I'm going to kick the ball over to John, Randall, and I. We got the full crew here this week, and we got all sorts of stuff to dive into, mostly video game focused, but we do veer off into other random conversations as well. But we got a nice beefy one coming up, a little more than 30 minutes of Save It for the Cast conversation, which sometimes I feel like even with the intro and the Save It for the Cast conversation, we barely get to a half hour or even like 25 minutes sometimes. So I'm going to try to keep it on the short and sweet side here for the intro because it's been the holiday week this week, so I've been a little bit busy spending time with family and friends and whatnot. But like I said, we're mostly video game heavy on the conversation coming up. We talk a little bit of like the upcoming, Nintendo consoles, speculation and whatnot. They did finally announce that was going to get, backwards compatibility, or at least was going to be able to play Switch games in some capacity. So with that said, and again, we veer off into a ton of other conversations. I guess I'll just kind of leave it for that to come. But with that said, I've been kind of scooping up a few more physical copies on Switch as of late. And I've been kind of in a shoot 'em up mode, not necessarily bullet hell 100%, but kind of in that bullet hell-y kind of vein. And I've been playing, I guess, three games, but two physical copies here. I picked up the RayStorm and RayCrisis HD collection, and then I picked up DRAINUS as well. Again, both picked up physically on Switch here. So I'll start off with RayStorm and RayCrisis, and this HD collection is awesome. It's very much like a remake, very true to the originals, but there is an HD version of each game, which just kind of like cleans everything up a little bit. But you can play like the true, arcade original. But there's just so many quality of life settings and stuff here. Like you can tweak. To the best I could tell, I didn't really mess with all the settings with the difficulty settings and whatnot with shoot 'em ups. I tend to like to just stick to like whatever the default is. But with that said, like if I ever am like, okay, I just want to see this game all the way through, you can change the difficulty settings on each individual stage, it seemed, for both games. RayStorm being the first of the two. There's actually another game in this series, third game, which is actually the first game in the series, but these two are more like the pseudo 3D. I mean, they're very much 2D gameplay for the most part. But they have like RayStorm, the first game in the collection here, is very much like kind of has like a Sega Saturn kind of flavor to it. Again, these were both arcade games, but then RayCrisis has like a little more of like a Dreamcast flavor to it, just a little bit cleaner. But just really love the kind of simplicity of the gameplay. Like it's pretty much just, you got one button that you can hold down or tap, rapidly to shoot. And then you have like your like a reticle that kind of floats in front of your ship that if you could, kind of like almost like I was going to say Panzer Dragoon, but like almost like Res style. If you get that cursor to, float over an enemy, it'll target and lock onto them. And there's two different ships you can pick from in each game. And they both play the same in each game, essentially. And then you can then just like target, X amount of enemies. One ship can do 8, one ship can do 16. But then once you max out your targets, it just kind of you can change either auto or manual, but you can press a secondary button then to fire that, shot once it's all charged up and, fire like your, essentially homing missiles or lasers, whatever they are, at the enemies and kind of hit all the enemies that you have targeted and locked onto. And then again, you just have like your regular shot as well. And then otherwise you just have like a bomb that you can fill up or, like a meter over time. And then you can use that bomb as like a screen clear kind of situation and do, massive damage to a boss or obviously just regular enemies as well. But just been really enjoying that collection. Been sitting in my cart for a little while on Amazon, and it finally went half off. So I was like, okay, $20 or 25. I can't remember what it was for this collection here. I can't pass that up. And then for whatever reason, I was scrolling around on Amazon as well. And there was like some kind of deal where I didn't have to pay the import shipping cost to order this technically from Japan because there's not a physical release of DRAINUS here in North America. But I'm going to keep this kind of short and sweet because I'll probably end up talking about this game on the podcast because this is legitimately one of the best shoot 'em ups I've ever played in my life. I just really love a shoot 'em up that has like a little bit of that sense of adventure or campaign. And I mean, I love a good arcadey shoot 'em up as well. And this one very much is. But it just has like a little bit of that extra, light story element. There's actually a pretty good story element. And I actually just like quote unquote beat the game. But then I'm not going to spoil too much here, but like when you beat the game, it kind of triggers like a second, not necessarily a new game plus, but I'll just kind of leave it at that because it does kind of tie into the story. But you just kind of start the game over and it is like a, true new game plus fashion. You're, basically just facing off against or playing the same stages over with tougher enemies or more enemies. I actually was having just a great run. I almost beat the full game on like a single credit, if you will, or I'd like died a couple times, but never got a game over. But it does let you continue from the, I was going to say the state, like the furthest stage you've made it to. It might even let you continue from like a checkpoint within the stage. I can't remember exactly how that save system works. But again, that's another thing that helps it feel a little bit more like an adventure and a campaign. You're not just starting from scratch every time or playing like a, roguelike run after run after run. But the pixel art in this game is just absolutely out of control. Like it almost looks like 3D at times. Or it almost like is 3D at times, the way it like rotates and like, I don't know, I just absolutely am in love with the style. The music is also just absolutely slamming. Like the soundtrack is just incredible. And then you have a bunch of different like power-ups that you can purchase as you fill up these, they call them, I think, energy tanks. And you just like fill that up by killing enemies and collecting the, little gems that they drop or whatever. And then you can buy those upgrades. And I really just like the overall health system. Like every time you can unlock, you start out with, I think, 3 health, and then you can unlock up to 2, maybe even 3 more than that. And then each of those health pickups will then give you a new upgrade to your ship, which you can purchase as well. And then fill those slots. And then so for example, you can have up to 3 or 4 or even 5 different weapons all triggering at once, like different bots circling around you or like drones or whatever. And then different, missiles and different, I think they call them mines. Along with your regular shot and your lasers and stuff like that. It's just such a cool game. And then the way that it ties those weapons into your health, it's just such a well thought out game in every single regard. And I'm so glad I kind of waited, because this game's normally $20 digitally, and it goes on sale every now and again. I think I've seen it for 14, maybe even $12, but I've just been man, this game just looks so good. I almost wish there was a physical version. And then I happened to see oh man, I can get this. I think it was a little over $30, but with no shipping, I was like, okay, I'm just going to spring for it, because this game definitely just looks like it's worth it. And I am so happy that I sprung for this physical copy, because I'm so pumped to have it on my shelf here. But like I said, I'm going to keep it on the short and sweet side for once and be actually true to my word here on the intro. And kick it over to John, Randall, and I here for a whole bunch of video game chit chat on just like I said, all across the board here. Pinballs talk, interactive DVDs, like I said, even veering off the map out of video game territory a little bit, but yeah, all over the map. And until next week, we'll catch you then, and take care.
That's all right. I think I misspoke regarding the buttons actually being swapped on the Japanese PlayStation controllers, but it certainly is confirm and cancel is definitely swapped.
Yeah, I remember that feeling. Yeah, so awkward in Metal Gear. Just a circle to, even though again it's in the same spot on a Nintendo controller that would confirm anything else.
Right.
Just funny. Although it's weird, I don't think of A as confirm on Super Nintendo. I think of start being a little bit more you don't really press A on a menu screen all that much. At least in the games I'm thinking of.
Still coming out of the NES era with that stuff, yeah.
Yeah. It's so interesting, and start as actually starting the game.
Yeah, and select as being literally a change the option button.
Typically on the menu.
Right.
To switch between 1 and 2 players or something, or it's kind of crazy. You literally couldn't use up and down to change.
But thinking about how it's translated to now, where start feels like a pause button,
yes,
and select feels like a menu button,
yes,
or a map button, or an extra pause button almost.
It's so weird, and because I was doing a lot of in Monster Hunter Frontier, which I'm going to talk about on the podcast, at length, but having the certain muscle memory for certain button presses, where it's they had multiple layout, the certain things are editable in the customization of button things, but they also have set layouts where you can edit the mapping of the buttons on the controller, but you can't edit what they're assigned to in the layouts.
Gotcha.
So at one point I was playing a layout and like attack was on the D-pad. Attack was on the second joystick. And I was like, nope, this is I cannot do this. This is unplayable. But like using select for specific things in like menu shortcuts where I was just go into the box and then immediately hit it to sort all the items. And I was like, oh, that's remained constant throughout the entire series somehow.
Yeah. I was actually just catching up to, because I saw you posted about the backwards compatibility on the Switch stuff or whatever it's going to be, but and I was catching up on all of like Moon and Abby talking about Echoes of Wisdom, and to get like back to like swayed me into like especially now that if Switch is going to be, or whatever this new one is going to be, backwards compatible, it's like maybe if it helps the performance issues too, and
that's immediately where my mind went, where I was like, oh hell yeah, I can't wait to play Echoes on Switch 2.
Yep.
Yeah,
basically.
Yep. And hopefully Link to the I was going to say Link to the Past, Link's Awakening.
Yeah.
For that matter too. Hopefully they have a patch or something to that, or it'll just run better on it just by the sheer nature of that. It's just a more powerful console.
Yeah, because you saw we talked about it on the podcast about like Mikey playing the emulated version of Breath
I was literally
of the Wild.
talking about that before you hopped on with Randall.
And like having that upscaled is just gonna look fucking incredible.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Let alone even the chugginess that comes about from time to time in those sort of games would probably be smoothed out. Not that it's ever a problem in those games, but
it never bothers me too much. But still, even if it's cleaned up a little, or like in Tears of the Kingdom, like even in the early goings, I could feel some chugginess on some stuff. So it's like, okay, I can only imagine when you start building some crazy contraptions,
right?
How that game runs.
I hope they keep the Pro controller.
Yeah, me too. I hope they just like keep it basically the same, but I gotta think that's gonna be another like handheld-ish platform and like keep.
Yeah, who knows?
I don't know, but they can also make a ton of extra money by being like, oh, you gotta have these new Joy-Cons. These are called Toy-Cons. I don't know.
I wonder if they're even gonna bother with Joy-Cons this time around. Feels like they kind of went away from it a little bit over time with that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like that new WarioWare game was like all
Okay.
And that new WarioWare game was like used the gyro and like went the hog wild on that controller.
Yeah, that's what Wario does.
Gyro's pretty standard though for everything.
In anything,
now.
There's like anything's gonna have a gyro in it. Yeah,
which is interesting because like, did that start with the Wii nunchuck and like Wiimote?
There might have been. I'm sure there was other gyro stuff before, like if like Kirby Tilt and Tumble, I guess. If
right.
Kind of weird,
and I'm sure other
things.
Peripherals and stuff.
But standard,
but like in terms of
console.
Just standard,
putting it into because like I when I think about like new things in and like the trackpad in the PlayStation controller, like that's a new thing, or like the back touch. Was that also PlayStation? Was that PSP?
Vita, I think so.
Vita.
Yep.
Yeah, like that's always fascinating to me because like
I never played a Vita.
I didn't play
the Steam Deck also has that back touch like things and like I don't know, it doesn't never feels natural to me. Anytime that I accidentally click it, I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. It does feel odd. Like I'm all for it if it's like an accessibility thing. If it's like, hey, it would allow people with certain conditions to be able to use the back instead of the front, and like
as an additional option or like thing. But like the way that controllers kind of have like become a liquid filling the container of like it expands to use every single button. They will assign a function to every button.
Yeah, exactly. Like there's literally like 12 buttons on a controller, maybe not quite that many, but it's like.
But then they
still
like
pushing
adding
down the
in
joysticks.
The L3, yes, the clicking in the joysticks as a. I know you're a hater.
As an action button, like I'm all about. I don't care if it's like to zoom in with the scope on a sniper, or
to crouch,
toggle something, or crouch. But like if I have to hold it down and like hold forward to sprint, like get the fuck out of here. That makes me so mad.
Weird. I'm kind of with Kevin on this one. It just feels a little weird. Like I have to hold my thumb differently, I feel like, to do that. Especially when you have to, like, if you are like trying to run, like I've played a few games that do use it as like a sprint, then it's like you have to hold it down and then keep somehow putting pressure on it downwards while you're also pushing it forward.
Yeah. I've only ever played one where like the sprint is a toggle where you click it in once and then you are sprinting.
I've played a few. It's a few and far between, I'll say. It's not like I play games very often where I run into this. But yeah, I've definitely played some where I'm like, man, I have to hold that down and like push it forward. It's like tricky.
That's weird.
There were some games though that did do that. And I'm trying to think.
Even I remember having like a not to over exaggerate, I was going to say panic attack, but that's not anywhere near the right word. But when Breath of the Wild first released and like X was jump by default, and I was like, oh no. I was like, I'm not going to be able to play this game. There's no way. And then I saw you couldn't actually change hardly any of the buttons, but you could just swap sprint and jump in the game. So it made B jump and X sprint, which it still felt a little awkward to press X to sprint, but I still prefer that over pushing down a joystick and holding it
that's
down.
Basically me in Super Metroid, like putting sprint onto a face button as opposed to just automatic. I was like, this sucks. This is unplayable.
Wait, you can do that?
Like, no, it has it assigned to a face button.
Yeah, there's no
whereas
customizing.
in later, the way that they incorporated like speed boost into later games is like, if you just kept running, it would just like, if you just kept moving in one direction, you would start getting a speed boost.
Yeah, because that was that way in Zero Mission.
And Fusion,
Yeah.
And it's not like that in Super Metroid, because I kind of feel like you do almost do like a weird like momentum-y sprint. That's why I got kind of excited there.
But you have to hold the like one of the face buttons down.
Oh, really?
Which makes it harder to like shoot and jump or do anything with another face button, because you need to be holding either like X or Y to sprint. And like part of what I liked about Fusion was, having the run and gun, or like holding one of the shoulder buttons to angle up while you're running.
While you're running,
big time. Yeah. That makes all the difference in Metroid.
But the way that you could also do the aiming in Dread, I gotta go back to Dread.
I was just thinking about Dread.
I gotta play that game too.
Metroid
and actually
like 2 days
remastered.
Ago.
I gotta go play remastered, because I really have never really played all the way through Prime.
Well, actually, that's what made me think about it, because they're doing Xenoblade Chronicles X remaster for Switch. That just got announced in the last week, and then I'm like, what's left? What else is out there? Like, well, what if they did move the Metroid 2 remake that was on 3DS to Switch?
It's so good. It's such a good game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it's the same engine
Metroid
as
2.
Dread.
I thought you meant Echoes, but like Prime 2. But I forgot you're talking about the.
Metroid 2, Samus Returns.
Yeah, I wasn't going to take a shot at it because
it's either Samus Returns or the Return of Samus. One of them is the worst was like renaming convention since Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Final Fantasy VII. Whatever the other one is.
Samus Returns is the remake. Okay.
I kind of forgot about that remake, Yeah,
it's so good. God, it is it is like there's a boss in every single Metroid game that after beating it, I always feel like I never want to play this game again, because I'll have to do this boss again.
Definitely.
That's me with almost any game I beat.
But there's a particularly brutal one in Samus Returns. Like, I've had my fair share of rough times with Metroid bosses, but that one was like, this was miserable. But it was
Dread?
like worse than Dread. Dread had like. That last boss was a pain.
There's a couple of them that are like, difficulty spike.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, probably Other M probably has the worst out of all of them, but like those are mostly just like quick time events.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon me. Oh man, me like opening up the door of like playing Frontier has been like, oh, I really want to play some like jank ass old games.
There's some joy to be had there for sure.
It's so great. Like, I love like struggling against a control scheme.
Yeah.
Just getting broken out of your like usual comfort zone, right?
Yeah.
That's part of it.
This doesn't quite even apply to exactly what we're talking about, but like even just the other day we went over to my buddy's brother's house and he has like the craziest game collection. Like he has like all those like huge box sets. Like he had like he was missing the original Jak and Daxter, but he had like all the other Jak and Daxters like in these those giant boxes that have like all the
like
collectible
the promo
shit.
stuff.
Oh wow.
Like,
yeah, like he had like the Enter the Gungeon on Switch. He had like all these that I did a ton that I didn't even know existed. I was like, dude, I didn't know you were this into video games. It's the same friend's brother that like has that Fire Tower board game. So he had like a huge board game collection.
Is he the one that brings like the suitcase to the game nights full of games? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
hell
and
yeah.
he had like we literally got to his house and he had like a CRT TV. Like
nice.
I'm sure it's hooked up all the time, but like
yeah.
He had it like on and running with Point Blank from PS1.
Jealous.
With like the light guns. So we played a few rounds of that, which was kind of, it was like fun, but he was so good at it. Like, it's like you're just mopping the floor with us because you know all these mini games.
Right.
But I've never actually played that one before, other than like I played it at their house growing up. I remember a few times.
Oh, that's cool.
Because they had that game, way back when. But it was kind of cool to like, I never realized that that's like basically like almost like a WarioWare game, but like in light gun game with light gun mini games. But it's like very much like rapid fire, manic. Yeah, I thought it was just like a traditional like Time Crisis style light gun game, but just with like more quirky, zany, cartoony art style. So
they made at least a couple of those. Well, they were arcade games first, but there's a couple of them on PlayStation, I want to say.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing those big boxes with the guns, guns and stuff.
Oh yeah,
those light gun games are just so much fun. Any of them. I don't know why it's so satisfying to like aim a thing at the screen and feel like you're actually shooting at it, but
it is fun.
It's just cool, yeah.
Yeah,
and I guess just because it actually does feel accurate, so it's like you do feel like you're able to like, oh man, I can like really get that finesse down.
And there is some like now that there's gyro controls in like basically everything, it feels like that should be kind of not ubiquitous, but at least possible.
It can definitely be done. I mean, because it was good. It was even good enough on the Wii, and gyro's only gotten better since then. So,
absolutely.
Well, that had the pointer IR going for it too, which is like a little bit.
That's true.
A further accuracy level there, especially when you got the Wii Motion Plus. I was very much a sicko for those light gun games on Wii. But
I remember playing a lot of those at your place, like Ghost Squad.
Ghost Squad.
And it's like a lot of those games, like they're not even that good, but they
don't have to be.
They're just fun. Yeah, exactly. Some of them really are good, but some of them are definitely
the tactile controls of the Wii were really fucking good.
Very good.
The Wii was awesome.
Yeah.
The Wii was fucking awesome.
It was.
Like I was just thinking about like in Super Mario Galaxy where you could where you held the trigger down and it would move you on those like blue star things like in it was like a little like tractor beam sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, even just the little like wrist flick to do the little
feels good. Yes, the wrist flick was so good. Like such
always felt very like intuitive. Yep, and it worked every time.
Every
you never
time.
did it like, oh, I swung it and it didn't do it.
Right.
Man.
I think we were talking once on the podcast about like the new Super Mario Bros. Or maybe even like Wonder added it as just like a third A button press when it used to be a like shaking the controller in the new Super Mario Bros.
Right. Yeah, to like do the little like
extra
little
spin jump.
Yep. Yeah. Oh man, that was good.
I did. It worked. It worked extraordinarily well on Wii. I loved that stuff. But I never minded motion controls. I was the sicko that played that way every time.
I liked
Mario Kart Wii and stuff like that. Just how
we were. Oh god, doing the controller shake for the extra jump or the trick.
Yes,
in midair to get you a little boost. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I kind of missed that actually. Yeah, I forget that I just pressed the button now.
To close the loop on the gyro thing, though, I definitely tried the House of the Dead port with gyro, and it just doesn't. It just does not feel as good. Yes.
On Switch?
Yes. And it just did not feel right. Like, it just just kind of, I don't know, just didn't feel as immediate or like as accurate to me.
Yeah, maybe you do almost need that like pointer unless it has that light gun technology, which is a shame because it almost makes it a little too easy if you can see the cursor.
Right.
I mean,
it doesn't totally ruin the game, but it does potentially make it a little bit too easy.
I would assume that there is some level, like with the Wii, it being kind of a lever, and you can tilt the angle with like the back of your wrist as opposed to, well, I think you can probably do that with a controller too, but like it's different muscles, it's different like fulcrum and lever point of angle or whatever you're dealing with.
I straight up put them in the plastic like gun things that Nyko was selling with actual working triggers, and it played great that way. Like all the light gun games did.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never bought any of those like peripherals other than like the wheels for Mario Kart.
Yeah.
But even that, I didn't always play that way. Like if I really wanted to get competitive, I'd break out the controller.
Sure.
But like if I was just playing like just for fun with friends, like I definitely, or me and my brother or whatever, we would definitely just play with the wheels, and it was kind of like an added to the chaos, I guess.
Yeah,
of the game.
Yeah.
It's fun.
But they were probably like optimized for control or like rotating along like a wheel axis.
That axis,
so,
yeah. But even like I was just talking to DJ about it when he was in town. We were talking about the Bit Trip games and stuff too, and it's like how like Bit Trip beat. Like I have the 3DS collection of those games, or I might have actually gotten rid of it because it's like it's just not good on there because you can literally just use the touchscreen and drag the little paddle wherever you want it.
It's too
and like
precise.
The whole challenge of the game was like having to like it was so satisfying to get into like that flow state with like just moving the. And like I think we talked about this on a Save It for the
we've
Cast,
definitely talked about it. I've listened to the episodes recently to put them into the spreadsheet, but you're right. Like there is like it's almost
tactile,
like analogous to like learning how to play either a trombone or a theremin, where you are just like learning the muscle memory of like it is this exact like angle or like distance that I'm moving my hands to get to that specific like position on the screen. Or
it makes
whatever.
A lot of sense. Yeah, that's a great way to describe it with Wii controls in particular.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially for like the Bit Trip games because you have like a maximum distance of like on an axis of like up and down for Bit Trip beat. So like if you're going like especially like with a theremin where you have like you are like kind of jerkily moving your like hand and then like stopping it at the exact note, but like there's a little bit of wiggle room where it's like almost like a deceleration of like jumping to a position but like just like slowing it down just enough to get to the thing, so there's a little bit of a glissando on the note.
Good word,
buddy. I love putting a fucking music terminology into gameplay. This is how my brain works, baby.
No, that's that's like a direct translation. That's like when have games gotten more tactile than that era, right? Analog, in a sense.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, it's like that's interesting. It is kind of analog.
Oh,
like digital, obviously, but very analog.
I think I've mentioned this before, but like Lauren's ex-coworker bought a billiards hall in Chicago.
Shoot,
I think you did mention that. Yeah,
but he and his wife are also like huge pinball people, and his wife is like a nationally ranked pinball competitor. So they purchased it with like some other friends of theirs who also like are big pinball people, and part of them buying the place was like they're like, hey, we want to turn at least one of the areas into a pinball like area in addition to the billiards hall. Like we'll keep it a billiards hall, but we want to put some like pinball machines there, and like they own several, their friends own several, and then there's apparently just like a guy in Chicago that like rents them out, but that doesn't even rent them out. He just like, I asked because I was like curious how it works, and he just like goes there. He lends them out to them. Like there's not like an arrangement, but like he'll just take like the majority of the profit of there and then give them a cut for just having the machine there of like whatever money gets put into it. But like he also goes there and like does maintenance on them.
Yeah,
like
that was my question. Who's doing the maintenance? So sold immediately. You can't argue with that proposition. No,
like you just need to like have a legitimate enough business front that he feels safe putting it there.
Yep.
And like it's such a cool thing. Like I played, what did I play? It was what was it? God, I'm trying to remember
describe it.
No, and it's a media franchise, and it was like it's a movie franchise, but I'm trying to remember what it was.
What era are we talking?
I don't know.
Modern?
No,
or is it
probably
like a 90s Adams
2000s
Family. That feels
but like they had
machine.
some of the like heavy hitters, and like they're talking about what is it, Bally and Midway, all the manufacturers that used to be located out of Chicago.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was just such a great like thing, but like again, that tactile like experience of playing a game that is handcrafted, where you are like feeling the machinery in there, and like it's so good.
Crafted individually for that game's experience, engineered for one game experience.
Engineered,
so cool, right?
It is. Yeah. Oh, it had such a good. God damn it! I'm trying to remember whatever like the fucking lines were said in the like. I want to say it was almost Austin Powers or something.
Yeah, sure. There's like, an Austin Powers machine, at least one. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But like every time that you would hit the spin like thing, or like they're not. I'm just describing a pinball machine.
Every time you hit the bumpers, it's so cool, man.
You hit it with paddles, and the ball moves, and it hits something else, and then the numbers go up.
Loud sounds and lights going on.
I didn't even mention it. My brother's or my buddy's brother's place. His name's Nathan. He's also my buddy as well. But he had the Jurassic Park pinball machine. And he had it all souped up. Like he bought a bunch of like boutique, like apparently people make like custom things that you can add to the pinball machines. And he's like, look, he's had this like sign, and which obviously he literally took the glass off. So like otherwise the sign doesn't do anything. But he's like, look, it even rotates like just in the movie, just like in the movie.
That's the one with the actual like T-Rex head in it, right?
Yeah. The only thing that he was missing, well, actually, one of the paddles was broken. Like every time it would flip up, it would just stay stuck up, and like the little like I don't know connector was broken off. But he opened it up, and like, I mean, no kidding around. I mean, there are just multiple circuit boards and like the crazy amount of wires, and it's like this is nuts. Like
this is why you need
obviously like beautiful. Like
they really are. They really are pretty cool. They're a work of art, no doubt about it.
I agree.
Yeah,
it's really cool to see them with the glass off too, and just like see it as like it feels way more like a work of art when you see the glass off and you're just like looking at the machinery without that barrier.
Yeah, fuck, it would be so sick to own one and not have it be protected.
Yeah, although he said right away though, like I guess we were playing with it off, but it was not working, so we really weren't like playing all that much. He was just kind of like throwing the balls into the different bumpers and stuff, and like triggering things to happen. But he's like, it's so loud, like some of the stuff without the glass on, like that really is like a big muffle. On like some of the like when the T-Rex roars and stuff like that. So he's like, it really is like you kind of have to have it on.
I would love to have a pinball machine at some point.
Me too. That was always like my dream to have one. My cousin had like some kind of racing pinball machine growing up in the basement. Nothing very basic, straightforward, but it was just so cool to like, dude, we're playing pinball like at my cousin's house. This is so cool.
Yeah.
Whoa. Like in the same way that like one of my dreams is to build an electromechanical piano, like a Wurlitzer or a Rhodes. Like,
wow.
Part of me is like, I would fucking love to build a like a shitty pinball, like just the most basic, like just two working paddles. Like that would make me feel so proud of myself.
There was a lot of that happening at this this Northwest Pinball Expo that I went to last year. That's right in Tacoma. Man. There's multiple people that were doing that, and it's fascinating. It's so
cool.
Yeah. Let alone like customized versions of like games, and they've added this and that, kind of like you're saying, like
Yeah.
let alone they're remastering a lot of the best pinball machines now because pinball's huge again, and they're still pinball manufacturers. So,
that's what my buddy was saying. He was saying like nowadays when they release machines, there's like multiple versions of them, like kind of like higher tiers. Like there's like this basic one model, and then there's like the souped up version, and then there's like the the gold, or whatever. He said it's like pretty standard, I guess, for them to release them in like these
at
least
two
SKUs.
different. Yep.
Yeah. Kind of crazy.
Yep.
That rules.
But it makes sense. It's like, hey, here's like the bar version, and here's the Dave and Buster's version or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. God.
This one's got to have the compatibility to swipe a power card on it instead of just take coins.
Oh, yeah. Scan your QR code.
Yeah. It's weird even, like, I've gone to or I shouldn't even say gone, but, like, walked through, like, at some of the malls have, like, those arcades in them now. And, like, a lot of the games they have in the arcades are, like, almost like mobile games. Like, they'll be, like, Flappy Bird. Or
dude, it's weird.
It's weird.
Yeah. Like, there's one that was literally just, like, a giant tablet. Or like
that's basically what they are. It's like a giant touchscreen phone or whatever. Yeah, tablet.
But that's what the Gen Z and Gen Alpha know mostly for like gaming, right? Well, not mostly, but like certainly more than our generation, right? That's their main input method with a lot of games that they're familiar with.
For a control scheme that's like they're like very married to the function of like the presentation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Woof, that's kind of weird. I mean, like. We went to like an indoor go-karting place for a friend's bachelor party.
Nice.
And like they had a light gun version of a Halo game. They had also like the Cruisin' Exotica or whatever with the like wheel like racing like setup and like those are I think are always going to be standard. Like I think there's always going to be like the whatever version of light gun game, whatever version of racing game where you sit in a chair and have a wheel
or sit on the bike and you can like
if you're lucky you have the bike ones. But for I don't know, unless you're at a specific like arcade, I don't know if there's as much of the like, I don't know, here's the fighting game.
Yeah, here's the joysticks and buttons and have at it. Yeah, unless you're at like a barcade.
Right.
And
so
like that's really the only place you're going to find that stuff these days.
But they're not those aren't also that rare, I feel like, for major cities.
There's a lot of those, if you're in a big enough city.
Yeah, or like some. At the very least, like here's the bar that just has burger time for some reason. Or Tapper
or something. Yeah, arcade games can definitely be a good time.
Never that much of a fan of Tapper. It's all right though.
Me neither.
Tapper can be. I never enjoy it that much. I did enjoy watching Katie play it. She was like a fucking beast at that game.
Is Mikey a Tapper or
Mikey? Guy? No, Mikey's a Tapper guy too. Yeah, Mikey's pretty good at that game too. But yeah, I remember Katie would just get in like the fucking zone. We would go to Logan Arcade or whatever it was, and on Milwaukee or Emporium. And they had the one there. Actually, they used to have this one machine there right next to Tapper. And it was like this indie arcade machine. It had like 6 or 8 games on it, and one of them was
Super Hexagon.
Super Hexagon, and it had like this like dial rotating controller.
It was so fucking good.
It wasn't a trackball, but it was like a dial that you would just spin.
Like Tempest uses.
I would play. Yeah, exactly. It was that exact control scheme, I think.
Yep.
And I would play the shit out of that too. Like literally, I'm pretty sure they were right next to each other, and Katie would play Tapper. And I would just be playing Super Hexagon, just literally like, especially when you're getting a little tipsy, like that screen is just like, you're like, oh my God.
And the Chipsel soundtrack for Super Hexagon is just unbeatable.
That game rules.
Yeah.
So simple, but it's just so good.
I was going down the Terry Kavanaugh rabbit hole again recently, just because like
Terry's just the best.
He's put out a few stuff that I haven't looked into recently, because like he was also doing that one like it wasn't like Twine, it wasn't like he's very into like making
experimenting
games
and
on whatever platform. And so there was like a new type of like arguable like game engine or whatever that was like stuff that you could just make on your mobile phone. And it was more of like, you know, almost like a slideshow, which I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast, but the original Myst was made on a program that was essentially PowerPoint.
What?
That doesn't really surprise me.
It does,
but like, just because all these like static incredible. Screens, but that's like
exactly. Like,
wow. That somebody like envisioned the possibility of like, what if I just stitch together this world with a bunch of static images, and I could probably stitch it together? Because I remember you could like being able to build those PowerPoints, like, and you could like have all these branching paths. I remember being able to like do some crazy stuff with like, that. Yeah.
Creating like basically like almost web page like navigation where you're moving from one link to the next, and it's kind of like,
and it's like keeping track of what you're picking and stuff.
Yeah, it's like abstracting out movement, but like displaying it as an image on screen. Which it's fucking fascinating.
I feel like that interactive DVDs got into that just a little bit too.
Dude.
The same way. Yeah. There was a moment for that.
Yep. Even those like there were those couple.
I forgot about like using like the Easter eggs or like here's a DVD extra where it's basically just like selecting a new like finding the hyperlink. It's Flash games. It's like Homestar
Austin
Runner.
Powers needs to say "yeah, baby" like 5 times in the next 3.5 minutes, and then a little egg pops up in the corner, and if you catch it with your D-pad of your remote.
Yes.
Oh God! Playing a game with a remote control, the most unresponsive thing you could possibly imagine.
Oh yeah.
I'm at 0.
Oh, that's good. We found out now.
Yeah, for real though.
Yeah, thank God you said that, man, to clap. God damn, but there was some good. You guys were going good on that Pokemon stuff. God damn it.
Just isolate our audio with the silence from you.
I might be able. I didn't say much during some of those chunks, so I might be able to like take a little like trim some of that. What were your guys' times at again?
I'm at 34:39.
I'm at 42:45.
God damn it! I'm sorry, guys.
No worries, man.
God damn it! All right, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Fuck, man! I'm so sorry, guys.
But